Hello everyone, welcome to MinseyCrafts. I am Minna and I am your host on this channel. This knitting vlog comes to you from the northeast of England and I have special guests here, our dogs. This is Agatha, and Agatha has been just spayed and she has a lovely dinosaur toy that she loves to showcase to you. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I know that the weather lately has been quite extreme in various places in the world, but I can tell you that over here in UK, July has been quite chilly, and right now I'm even a little bit cold, so I'm wearing a shawl. I was earlier wearing my one of my thick sweaters, and Agatha just laughs so much. Her tail never stops. No, it doesn't. Your tail never stops, does it? Yes. And everyone who baby talks to their pets, raise your hands. I've not made any content in probably now like 4 or 5 weeks. There's a few reasons for that. I was on annual leave for 3 weeks, and while I was thinking that I would get a lot of content done during that time, I ended up just taking it easy, and we had also some other things happening in life, like we got Agatha spayed, and that wasn't quite as straightforward as we thought, but that's a different story actually. And then I've also had some technical difficulties with the video format that I'm this is being recorded, and then the video editing software that I'm using, and so I just kind of need to figure out what's going on with that. Yeah, I was on annual leave for 3 weeks. It was lovely. I got a lot of knitting done, so that's very positive. I did some gardening and some just enjoyed life, and while the weather wasn't brilliant, at least it wasn't like excessively hot either. Before I get into the episode 9, I'd like to just remind you to like and subscribe. And also, I'm not sponsored by any of the brands that I'm going to be talking about here. So first of all, you may remember I was knitting a shawl called Citron Shawl, and that is finished now. I finished it and I have blocked it, and this is how it turned out, and I quite like it. I actually think that this is more of a Shawlette size, and so I'll just put this on for you to show. Oops. Sorry, Ninja. The older dog is right behind me, and the shawl kind of fell on her. So this is kind of how it looks on my shoulders. Here is a different view of the shawl. This is how it looks from the back, and this is very light. Well, obviously it's been knitted with lace weight yarn. In the winter I can probably wear it like a scarf. I'm not very good with putting scarves on, but something like that. So it's going to be very beautiful. And this color, I really love it. I don't think I have too many green colored garments like this. And so this is quite a new fun color in my repertoire. You may remember that I knitted this with Blacker Breed's Bluefaced Leicester lace yarn, so Blacker yarns. This color way is called Coral Maze, but I don't think that it is anymore in for sale. They have something very similar colors though. I got the yarn, I want to say it was in 2018, probably. I'm reading from my knitting diary or my crafting diary, so I write things in here about every project that I'm doing. So I used this size, and with my tension and with the needle size 3.5 millimeters that I used, this took 80 grams of yarn. And I think that this yarn was quite lovely to knit with. It's obviously very thin, being lace weight, and what was kind of interesting was that there was a little bit like thinner and thicker spots, but I thought that it gave it more like a living surface perhaps even, and it didn't really like impact how it knitted. So I would definitely recommend using this, and I would buy this yarn again as well. Then going into the pattern that I used for this. So this is called a Citron Shawl, and I have previously mistakenly said that this was by Nitty, but this is my oversight. I didn't quite understand this. So this is actually a pattern that was published in the Nitty.com. So this is a online knitting magazine, and there's a number of patterns in there, and this is where I originally found this. There's also a so this pattern is also, you can find it on Ravelry, and this is a free pattern. There is a also a pattern that costs for a bigger version of this, but the free pattern also gives you how to count the stitch increases if you need to make it bigger. And I thought that was like reasonably easy. I'm not great at maths, but I managed to do it. So I think that you can also, if you wanted to make this and make it bigger than the original pattern. So going back to the pattern and the designer. So this is designed by Hilary Smith Collis, and she had intended this as a Shawlette size. So there's a bigger size for a shawl version, a full size shawl. And in her design, she actually made this in a very similar color, but I then tried to copy. Hers is a little bit more green, like lime green, I guess I would say. And actually, that was the color was what drew me in the first place to this pattern. And then I really loved this ruffled stripes here. So I saved the pattern. I will of course link below all these all the patterns and that I've been talking about. Also, I'd like to say that the pattern was quite easy to follow, and after the initial it always takes a little bit to kind of like get your mindset into the pattern and read it and understand it, but after that it was like very easy, I think. Also for this yarn, I would like to mention that so this is blocked, washed and blocked now, and it is very soft feeling. Then secondly, I have finished my cotton socks over here. They've been blocked now as well. They're not on sock blockers anymore, but I really like the color of these, and I haven't actually used them. I thought I would use them last week, but then the weather got a lot colder, so I just put my normal wool 4-ply wool socks on. This yarn is King Cole cotton socks 4-ply, and this was 58% cotton, 38 polyamide, 4% PBT. And go see my previous episode on more information on this PBT, which is polybutylene terephthalate. I would rate this as I think it was quite nice to knit with. It didn't split, and you do want to use probably smaller, and Ninja is off. You probably do want to use a little bit smaller needles than you would normally, and it is very soft as well. So I used needle size 2.25 millimeters. There is one thing you can maybe see a little bit like a white here in the within the yarn, and I suspect that must be the PBT because it's what gives the stretch, and so it maybe doesn't so I don't know how this yarn has actually been created, like whether it's been dyed with the PBT in there, but so that I found a little bit odd, and I don't know if it is because the yarn sat in my stash for a year. I bought this last summer, and I don't remember. I knitted black socks with this 2 years ago, and I don't remember seeing this with that, so I'm not quite sure what this is all about. But regardless, I'm guessing that in use this will even out, and I don't really even think about it. Anyways, they're going to be in my shoes, my feet, my socks. And the color for this is called Cobalt. and it is a very beautiful blue cobalt color, I think. I can recommend this yarn as well if you like to knit, would like to knit some summer cotton socks for yourself. Then let's get to my big project, the King Cole chunky sweater. And so just to remind you, I will show you this quickly. It is this one. The pattern number is 5498. There is also a very beautiful cardigan on the other side. I've thought about making that at some point, but everything that takes time, doesn't it? So this one is not quite complete yet. It's almost there, just almost. Like, I have knitted all the pieces, I have sewed the seams together, except this one final sleeve. I don't understand really, like somehow this finishing part takes a really long time, like and sewing pieces together. I guess I'm just not like really, maybe not into that too much, but I feel like I do some of it and then I need a break from it, so it just seems to take a long time. But I'm quite happy with this so far. It I think it does fit me quite well. I will put it on in a second. One thing I would say is I want to get better. Like, I've been knitting for years, and well, excuse me, Ninja, where do you want to go? So I've been knitting for years, and I still can't get my edge stitches quite even, and this is quite annoying for me. But then I suppose it also gives that hand knit feel to it. The other thing I am not very good at, I have realized, I usually don't have this kind of a garter stitch on the sides, and sewing garter stitch together I found is quite difficult. So it didn't turn out perhaps the prettiest, but again, I'm hoping that in the wash and blocking and use, it will kind of like even out eventually, and which it will probably do. And the dogs are really restless. I think that they're hungry, but it's not quite dinner time yet. Dinner time is in 1 hour. Okay, you go wait. Additionally, there's the at the hem, you'll have the kind of decorative buttons. I don't think that these actually have function, these buttons, but so I have these buttonholes, and I've tried to stitch around the buttonhole so it would look a little bit tighter, and also wouldn't wear out necessarily in case I do end up using this. And I had purchased the buttons from my local yarn shop, Ready Steady Knit. Let me try and show it to this to you. And I found these. So they are kind of like multicolored. I thought these were like really pretty and would go really well with this sweater as a little bit of a color drop in the hem. And so what I will need to do then is I have tested that these fit through the buttonholes, just barely, so it's quite tight. But that's actually better. Like I really hate it if a buttonhole is too large and the button just like pops open on its own. So if I'll show it to you, so this is how it will look like eventually when it's been sewed in. And I think I really like how this looks together, and that with the tweed collar, I think that's going to be beautiful. And also about the buttons, so there isn't I guess the brand is Elegant, and it says on the back here Blumenthal Lansing Industries and made in France. And about the yarn, so this yarn that I used for this sweater, so this is King Cole yarn, chunky tweed, and this is shade 1081 called Tyree, and this is 72% premium acrylic and 25% wool and 3% viscose. The recommended needle size for this is 6 millimeters. And so I knitted this with 5mm needles for the ribbing all over, and then 6mm needles for the actual body of the sweater, or the stockinette stitch part. And so now, interestingly, what I had not considered when I purchased the yarn, so that yarn that King Cole had recommended for this project is called Big Value Poplar Chunky, which turns out is a little bit different from this, and I hadn't considered that. So when you're buying yarn, always pay a little bit more attention perhaps than I did here. And even though I think my tension was off by one stitch when I looked at it, so I ended up having to go and buy another ball of yarn, which in my case was very lucky that I used this. I had chosen this kind of a natural color because it's not it's less possibility that there's less difference in the actual color than because I obviously wasn't able to get the same lot anymore. And so I ended up using, let me just count these, counting in Finnish, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so 8 balls of yarn, and then whatever is left here. And this yarn actually was very nice to knit with, I will say that. It doesn't split either. It's runs very smoothly on the needles, and so I have no complaints about that. I am still in love with tweed, and I think I may have to make more tweed projects in the future at some point when time allows. So talking about the pattern now itself, I think it was easy enough to understand in the first instance. I think that so they had explained very clearly like how to do this part down here, and then how to continue from there with this patterning here on the sides, like how many rows to knit and how many rows to purl and so on. Now one thing that I found a slightly bit annoying was that I think many patterns that I've knitted, they actually specifically mention what to do with the edge stitch, and this one didn't. So it kind of like included it in the patterning, and for some reason I found that kind of confusing. But what I ended up also doing was I just knitted the first and the last stitch every time. So. And then I ended up including it in the calculations as well. Then I got to the sleeves, and now strangely they kind of like explain the patterning in a slightly different way there, and I have kind of like it was very confusing for me actually for some reason, and so I ended up having to undo and like redo this part then, because it just didn't look right. So I have two theories here. I think either they had two different people write the front and the back piece and then the sleeves, or they realized that this all needed to fit into a certain space on this page, and so they tried to cut corners and make it a little bit like shorter, the sleeve patterning. I kind of ended up just like doing what it said for the in the main body of the sweater. So just something to be kind of aware of. I know people say, well, you are always supposed to read the whole entire instruction before starting to work. I actually rarely do that, so shame on me, perhaps. I don't know how many of you guys do that. Please let me know in the comments, because that would be very interesting to know. I tend to start and then just figure it out on the way as I go. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. It works out sometimes. Usually works out, I would say. So that's kind of my review on this. I think the pattern was it was okay. Could have been better, but it worked out at the end, and that's all that matters. I figured it out. And here I have this now on, so you can see the last sleeve is still needs to be stitched on, and but I know that the style is going into more looser fit, but I quite like how this is nice and tight. And I have this long sleeved shirt underneath, so it has enough give for me. The hem ribbing is just needs those buttons down here, and but you can't really see or tell that. I think it actually looks quite nice on the sides. Maybe there's a little bit, but I think it's fine. And I really love this color and the tweed. I also can't hype up enough my local yarn shop, Ready Steady Knit, where I purchased this yarn and the pattern for the sweater. So if you're local to here in the northeast of England, so go and have a look at the Ready Steady Knit, because they are very, very lovely people, and I am not sponsored by them, but I just love the place. I actually have a whole bunch of new projects that I have started, and I had thought about going through those here at the end very quickly, but I actually think that I have a lot of material already, so I'll save those for next episode. So stay tuned, because there's going to be some exciting new projects going on. Alright, everyone take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.